I'm Dick Kastner with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And first, thanks everyone for showing up today. I'm going to start out with some sobering news that really isn't news because we all know it. California's economy is lagging far behind the rest of the country. The national unemployment rate is still stuck at 6.1%, but here in California it's 2 full percentage points higher, more than 8%. Now this didn't just happen, especially in a state blessed with so many natural advantages. Our office covers other western states, our office of the U.S. Chamber, and where I constantly meet expatriate California business people. Men and women, I see them at local Chamber of Commerce meetings in Nevada, Utah, Arizona, and they say they wish they'd all left California sooner. Why is that? Because our friends in Sacramento act and vote as though they love jobs but hate employers. Our current Congresswoman, Julia Brownlee, served in the state assembly for 6 years, the maximum. She represented Santa Monica. Now Santa Monica is a very nice place, but it's a very different place than Ventura County. Our good friends at the Cal Chamber, the California Chamber of Commerce, work hard for economic growth and opportunity, for the kinds of laws that allow businesses to expand and prosper, to create jobs, write paychecks, and allow our families to live good lives. The Cal Chamber also keeps voting records. How do you think the Assemblyman from Santa Monica scored? Over her 6 years of casting countless votes that affect our economy, our companies, and our lives, Julia Brownlee voted for growth and opportunity just 17% of the time. But there's another candidate for Congress this year who's also served in the state assembly. Jeff Gorell is a veteran, having been decorated for serving 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan. He worked in the Ventura County District Attorney's Office, working to keep drugs and violent criminals off our streets. He teaches at Cal Lutheran in Thousand Oaks. He didn't have to move here to run for Congress. He's our neighbor in Camarillo. But that's not what drew the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the world's largest business federation, to Jeff. You see, our friends at the Cal Chamber kept tabs on his voting record as well, on bills that go right to the heart of what it takes to do business in California, on taxes, runaway spending, frivolous lawsuits, environmental extremism, strangling regulations, and much more. Jeff Gorell piled a 96% pro-growth, pro-jobs, pro-economic opportunity voting record. %, 96%. For us, it was an absolute no-brainer. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce is proud to endorse Jeff Gorell for Congress. Please help us send the guy who reflects Ventura County values every time he votes in Sacramento to Washington, D.C., where he can do even more to make things better. Other people who would like to add their thoughts to the matter, and I'd like to begin with John Kabatek from NFIB.
Thank you very much, Dick, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be here, everybody. Beautiful day. and great to be here. My name is John Kabatek. I'm the Executive Director of the National Federation of Independent Business. We are California's and the nation's leading and largest organization representing only small, privately held independent businesses. Great working relationship with the Chamber and other groups, and I'm so excited to be here with so many organizations united in support of Jeff Gorell for Congress. I want to thank Gills Onions for opening their doors, letting us be here today. I will try not to cry, both because I'm emotional and maybe a few onions here. I will get emotional, I'm sure. But we at NFIB are very proud to support Jeff for Congress because he understands small business and job creation like nobody else, and certainly not anything like his opponent does, Julia Brownlee. And frankly, we're all united in support because we know the stark differences between Jeff Gorell and Julia Brownlee, and we know that they couldn't be clearer on so many levels, but not the least of which when it comes to protecting and growing our economy and jobs, notably small business jobs. Jeff Gorell has been a small business owner. Let's look at some of the differences here. First of all, Jeff's been a small business owner, meeting payroll, creating jobs, contributing to the economy at both the local and state level. Julia Brownlee, career politician, who is totally out of touch with actually the economics and the functionality of what it means to run and operate a small business, and completely out of touch with creating jobs on Main Street. From day one in the California legislature, as you heard Dick mention a bit, Jeff has been completely committed to protecting jobs and California businesses. And he has worked, it's important to point out, Jeff has worked across all aisles to make sure that we are affecting policy that helps all small businesses, all jobs, and supporting policy that promotes free enterprise and make sure that we're stopping the bad stuff as well when that stuff comes forward. Jeff's been completely committed. I've seen him in Sacramento for the past 20 years I've known Jeff, but we've seen him in action here in the Assembly, lowering the cost of doing business, removing onerous regulations, stopping the frivolous lawsuits, as Dick had mentioned as well, that are a scourge not just here in Ventura County, but across the state. And again, Jeff has been a champion of requiring the state to do what small business owners here, like the ones that work hard every day and take the time to be here today, must do every day, and that is not spend more than you bring in. And make sure you certainly have a rainy day fund, at least where you can in the difficult economy. Julia Brownlee, on the other hand, has had an abysmal track record of voting against small business, against the success of mom and pops, and frankly choosing to side with union interests instead of her own constituents. And the proof is in the pudding, folks. Jeff Gorell, as we heard the United States Chamber's voting record, NFIB has a voting record for small business. You want to see the stark differences here? Since Jeff's time in the Assembly, Jeff has had a 95% or higher voting record in support of small business. That deserves a hand. I'm trying to tap down here so it doesn't fly away. Julia Brownlee, during her 6 years in the California State Assembly, had a 28% voting record during her time in the Assembly. But here's the interesting thing. She goes to Washington promising to fight for the little guy. Her voting record with NFIB with small business went from 28% in Sacramento to 20% in Congress. Julia Brownlee's support of small business issues actually decreased when she headed towards the East Coast and to Washington. And that is exactly the kind of thing that we're seeing and we've seen over these years. So I ask this question. Why should these people behind us and the voters of this district, or any Californian, trust that Julia Brownlee will actually do a better job and stop the record that she's had from terrible record of bigger government, increased union power, and frankly, the destruction of small businesses and the private sector? Why would we have any faith that she would change her ways and shift gears? She hasn't. She's gone downhill. You need to walk the talk when it comes to voter trust. Something my parents always told me. Jeff Gorell has walked the talk. Julia Brownlee has walked away from her constituents, from small business, in favor of special interests in Washington. So Democrats, Republicans, people of all stripes need to know that Jeff Gorell is the guy who is going to do it. He's proven it in Sacramento. He will take that talent, that vigor, and opening his door and listening to small businesses here and everywhere, but making sure that we are getting small business and jobs moving just like we've seen in Sacramento. and change this direction from the terrible direction, downward spiral that Julia Brown has taken with small businesses, but also this district in California. Now is the time to act, and we encourage everybody, as you see here, to vote for small business jobs and make sure that this district and California moves on the right path by supporting Jeff Gorell for Congress. Thank you very much.
Yet more. We have Nancy Lindholm here from the Oxnard Chamber of Commerce. Nancy.
Thank you, Dick. And since I was just told I was going to speak, I will be very brief. But very ironically, I was in my office this morning working on our California vote record to publish in our next newsletter. And I see a correlation between our out-of-town legislators. And in the state sampling that I took, I have 100% of Jeff voting on the bills, along with the positions of the Oxnard Chamber of Commerce. And our legislators from Santa Barbara County are dismal. I mean, if they're 15%, that would be very high. So it's going to be great to have a local guy in Congress to represent, I think. So a couple of things very quickly. I know our priorities at the Oxnard Chamber of Commerce have to do with how the local economy is and regulations and whatnot. But one of our priorities has always been the quality of life here in Oxnard. And we believe that the two major components of a good quality of life are a safe home to live in and a good job to have. And if you don't have a job, I can tell you your quality of life is not so good. So we're counting on you, Jeff, to help represent us in Washington, D.C., and we know that you have the best interests of jobs and a good quality of life.
Will Berg here. Will's going to speak for the Wanimi Chamber of Commerce. Wanimi.
Sorry. That's the Port Wanimi Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much. The Port Wanimi Chamber stands shoulder to shoulder with the Oxnard Chamber in recognizing the value that Jeff brings to our community and to our local businesses here. He's been a champion for growth in our local economy by aggressively forging bipartisan state and local partnerships that help make Ventura County a more vibrant environment for business to thrive in. We too support with the Oxnard Chamber Jeff. Thanks.
Wrapping up on Chambers of Commerce anyhow, Gary Cushing is here from the Camarillo Chamber.
Well, my name is Gary Cushing, and I'm the CEO of the Camarillo Chamber of Commerce. And I'm not going to talk about his opponent because we're going to talk about this man, because he's the one that's going to go to Congress for us and do a job. And I'd like to outline the reasons we at the Camarillo Chamber have endorsed Jeff. First, he was a member of our board. And when Jeff came on, he found our education committee and said, I need to do something about this because it's languishing. Jeff took it over and gave it new purpose. Second, I personally have seen Jeff in action at Cal Lutheran as an educator. He has this uncanny ability to break down the elements of legislation that comes before him and be able to look at the real impact of the legislation and also what are the unintended consequences. And I don't think his opponent has that ability. Third, when Jeff came back from Afghanistan, he looked at the environment in California and said, this is ridiculous that other states are using California as a shopping center to get businesses. So Jeff stood up and formed Gold Team, and he reached across the aisle to Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom. And we held a press conference up at Amgen, and we had labor, business, education, chambers, everyone came together under this project. And when I saw this project going, I stepped up and asked Jeff if I could be the local director of it. And it was interesting that when we would go to businesses, we would tout California. And it was very hard the way our regulations are in California. But there were two businesses that we saved, the Gold Team saved, from leaving Ventura County. And unfortunately, when Jeff and I went to him and said, we'd like to use this as publicity so we can show that we are doing something. And they said, no thank you. Jeff and I were stunned. Why? Well, we haven't even told our employees that we were thinking of leaving. So I can attest to you that we did save businesses from leaving California. And I don't see too many other legislators that have ever done that in this thing. And lastly, Jeff's performance in the California Assembly has been superb. He has reached across the aisle and worked with Republicans and Democrats. And he actually, as a Republican, got items passed in the state legislature, a democratically controlled legislature. That's unheard of. I don't know of any other Republican in Sacramento that's ever done that, Jeff. We feel that Jeff will take his leadership skills that he's shown in Sacramento, and he's going to take them to Washington, D.C., and he's going to do for Ventura County, California, and the nation what he's already done in Sacramento. Thank you.
I'd like to mention that one of the folks who had intended to speak, Rob Roy from the Ventura County Agricultural Association, was not able to be here, but he's here in spirit and would like to speak. But moving on, one thing that we don't see too often at endorsement events are business people willing to step up and speak publicly about what they believe. And we've got several here today, beginning with our host. So Steve Gill, Gills Onion.
I have to speak also. Jeff, it's great that I'm able to endorse you and support you in your campaign. And glad you had the adventure thing. Thanks.
Casey Cruff, owner of Sweet Peas and Flowers Gifts.
Good afternoon. Hi. Thank you. Forgive me, I'm not a great public speaker, so good afternoon. My name is Casey Cruft, and I'm the proud owner of Sweet Peas Flowers and Gifts in Ventura. I started working at Sweet Peas when I was 15 years old, and I've owned it now for 11 years. It has been a rewarding, challenging, and empowering experience. I know what it takes to run a successful small business and the obstacles that we business owners face. It is my honor to support a representative like Jeff Gorell, who has proven his alliance with small business owners like me time and time again. Jeff worked to join state and local partnerships to make Ventura County a more vibrant environment for business. He is a champion for business and in turn, a champion for growing our local economy. Jeff's legislative record is viewed by business groups as being clearly pro-business and pro-jobs. He truly believes in the business community and the far-reaching effects a successful business climate can bring to our state. I know that won't change when he represents us in Congress. Jeff also has a great relationship with Ventura County's National Association on Women Business Owners. As a business owner who is also a wife and a mother of 3, I know firsthand what it takes to balance the demands of running a successful business and a successful family. That's why I appreciate Jeff's commitment to supporting and growing women-owned businesses in Ventura County. Jeff supported business in Sacramento, and I know he will continue to be a champion in Washington for people like me. Thank you.
And now Tom Lucas from Performance Nursery.
Thank you so much. I'm Tom. I'm actually out of the Moore Park area. I've known Jeff for some time now. I know that there was an assembly race that he actually ran, and his mother was there, hand licking the envelopes. This person doesn't give up. Jeff is a great guy. The support of the community. I've been up to Sacramento. I've worked on workman's comp reform since probably back in the early, 90s when we had so many, terrible times, prior to 91. Jeff has actually been there for business. You go up to his office and up in Sacramento, it's a disappointment. I can't tell you that, you get lift service up there, thinking that, pro-business or not, it's all about creating jobs. And it's about, if we have a job, then we can actually have our family and all those basic, things. I've been looking at businesses in Arizona and out of state just because of having the job situation, and I just don't think it's going everywhere and then realizing we live in paradise, and I can't imagine not living here in California. So we just need to make this place a better place. I know that when he goes up to Washington D.C., he's going to have our back, and so being a military person and he's just a terrific guy. He was at my nursery or in Moore Park yesterday helping my nursery. Right now they're trying to shut me down, and he was there trying to support. He had his iPad having people sign a petition to save my nursery. So I can tell you that when he's up in Washington, D.C., he's not going to be too far away. He'll always have our heart and our brain, and so I support Jeff. Thank you.
You hear that? We got a guy who has been in the trenches and who will be there for us in Washington, and now it is time for the man of the hour. Jeff, it's all yours.
Thank you, everyone. I want to start by thanking everyone for coming out here today and standing in the hot sun. I think by the end of the press conference, I'm going to look like George Hamilton with my sunburn here. But this community is wonderful, and that's the reason why I'm running. Running because I love my community and I love my country. And this community deserves a champion who understands the 26th Congressional District. Somebody who's been here, has been in the trenches, and knows the people, the businesses of the 26th Congressional District. I've had the honor of being a small business owner in this community, and I've also been a teacher. I'm on the faculty at Cal Lutheran University. I've been there for 10 years. I've also been a prosecutor, 7.5 years as a deputy district attorney for Ventura County. I've been a legislator representing most of Ventura County in the California State Legislature. And I've been a naval officer, currently a commander in the Navy Reserve and an active drilling Navy reservist, two-time veteran to the war in Afghanistan. And I'm going to take all of those experiences, the leadership, the working across the aisle, and take that to Washington, D.C., where we frankly desperately need it. Washington, D.C. is broken. And I intend to take that same spirit. What I've been able to do in Sacramento, for example, working in a hyper-partisan environment where I'm a member of the superminority, notwithstanding that, we've been able to push forward and to achieve legislation on behalf of business and job creators that's truly meaningful in the last 2 years. We've been able to get workers' compensation reform done. Some of it, not all of it. We need to do more. We've been able to do some regulatory reform. Not all of it, but some of it. We've been able to put a clamp down on some of the drive-by lawsuits for some of our small businesses under the umbrella of the Americans with Disability Act by unscrupulous attorneys that simply file lawsuits knowing that small businesses won't hire a litigator to challenge them. I've been able to be, as a vice chairman of the budget committee in Sacramento in the Assembly, I've been able to be the chief negotiator with the governor and the Democrat leadership on some key things that are so important to my district, like the water bond that will be before voters in November, and start the process of reworking our infrastructure to hold on to water and to transport it to Southern California so that we do a better job of managing our water and addressing the drought. Proposition 2, I was the chief co-author on that, and that is a rainy day fund. I can't tell you how important that is to small business, and here's why. As the chief negotiator on the rainy day fund, I will tell you if voters support it in November, and I think they will, it'll require the state government for the first time during the good years, when revenues go up, to hold on to those revenues, so that during the bad years, when the economy drops and people are suffering, that they run out of money in Sacramento, that the first option isn't to turn around and raise taxes on you, small business. They'll have that rainy day fund so they can continue to do the vital services that Californians appreciate, that Californians rely upon, like public education, infrastructure, law enforcement, that they don't have to turn around and continue to do what they've historically done, which is raise taxes on you and hardworking Californians. Those are all of the things that I've been able to do, notwithstanding being in one of the most hyper-partisan environments in the nation. So the leadership of being in combat, the effectiveness of being a pragmatic legislator, the experience of being a small business owner, I'm going to take that and the support I have from our local businesses here who are friends, allies, each and every one of them. I'm going to take that same spirit of can do and take that to Washington, D.C. where unfortunately the spirit is cannot do. And we're going to break through. We're going to move the needle forward. We're going to move America forward. We're going to get manufacturing back to California. We're going to bring it back from overseas and bring it back to the United States, and we're going to bring it here to California. We're going to work on reforming the tax code so it's not such a burden on our small businesses. We're going to work on regulatory reform. Businesses like Gills Onions right here, suffering under some of the worst regulations ever, promulgated by people that have the right interest in mind, but with overly burdensome regulations that are making businesses go out of, fire everybody and go out of business, or move to other states or nations, like stormwater runoff. That's just an example. Extraordinary burden on our small, medium businesses, even on our universities and our naval bases. They can't handle that. So these things need to be reworked. And they need to be reworked not just on a Democrat idea or a Republican idea, but on a pragmatic, common sense, real human being, normal person, what makes sense approach to these issues. Something that's sadly lacking too often in Sacramento and is desperately lacking in Washington, D.C. So I would be honored and proud to be that champion for this community, that person that can stand up and try to unite Democrats and Republicans in business and labor, East County, West County, military, non-military, by doing the things we need to do. And that means fighting to keep the Navy base from being closed down in the next round of BRAC evaluations, which will be in 2017. Fighting to make sure that our ag has the water they need and is a partner in the state effort to bring the water down, to keep water, store water, desalinate water, do the things we need to do. All of those things and more. I'll be a champion for this community. I want to thank everyone for standing out here in the hot sun and for supporting me. We're going to do this in November. We're going to win. We're going to take back the 26th Congressional District, and we're going to take back America. Thank you very much.
Okay, everyone, about that standing in the hot sun part. This is not a spectator sport. We are going to wrap this up with a photo that shows that Jeff has the support of the community. So everybody who doesn't have a camera in their hand, get up here, and we're going to have a photo. Come on.
Maybe right in front?
Yeah, right in front. You can turn it. There you go. Have a check on the top. Order for you win. There you go. I'm a Republican. I'm used to that in California.
Can I take your hand during the photo?
Can everyone see the camera? Everyone see the camera?
Can we get closer? Can we...